Wetenskap word al vir eeue lank deur net 'n paar mense oorheers. Dis 'n onderwerp vir wetenskaplikes met gespesialiseerde opleiding en toegang tot laboratoriums en navorsing. Maar die draai van die eeu het vir burgerwetenskaplikes gesorg. Gewone mense wat nie net met grade gewapen is nie, maar met slimfone en 'n brandende nuuskierigheid. En die data wat hulle voorsien, is besig om die kern van navorsing te verander. Om antwoorde vir wetenskaplike vrae op Facebook te gaan soek, klink nie soos 'n slim skuif vir wetenskaplikes nie, maar dit is presies wat twee Kaapse wetenskaplikes gedoen het en die resultate is merkwaardig. Drs Brian en Robin Maritz van die Universiteit van Wes-Kaapland is veral geïnteresseerd in slangdieete. As ons verstaan wat slange inkry, help dit ons verstaan waaruit gif bestaan en dit kan weer in die behandeling van slangbyte help. In 2015 het hulle 'n Facebook-bladsy spesifiek vir navorsing oor slange en ander reptiele begin en mense aangemoedig om waarnemings van slange wat vreet daarop te deel.
We started because we noticed that on our very own feeds, there were people posting photographs all the times of snakes eating things and normally asking for scientists or other experts to identify the snakes and the prey items. And so we started the Facebook group to start pooling and cataloging those records.
Toe hulle weer sien, is hulle besig om van burgerwetenskap gebruik te maak, waar mens enige iemand wat belangstel gebruik om inligting oor die natuur bymekaar te maak. Who are the main contributors to this page?
Mostly it's just typical members of the public who are contributing.
But there are a fair number that come from nature photographers or people who do snake removals, and so we do get an extra number from those people as well.
Why are these photographs such a big deal?
One of the big things that we found is that for predator-prey interactions that could be identified to the species level, a full 75% of those were new to science. In other words, they hadn't been recorded in the scientific literature already.
Die inligting wat mense gedeel het vir 'n merkwaardige versameling fotos deur die publiek gesorg en selfs vir die publisering van 'n wetenskaplike artikel oor die vinnige invordering van data deur sosiale media.
One of the big challenges to studying reptiles, and particularly to studying snakes, is that they're really quite difficult to observe in the wild. We say that they have very low detection probability. In other words, the chance of seeing one when you're out and about is actually quite low. So using citizen science, and particularly using social media, appears to be the only way that we can get sufficient people making observations to record these relatively rare events.
It's this interesting thing where you draw on the power of people to be able to observe things, and they become involved in a project just by the observations that they make on random occasions.
Net deur van Facebook gebruik te maak, was daar skielik 'n 10voudige toename in die gereeldheid van opnames van slange wat vreet. Just how much more information are you getting from Facebook?
Well, if you look at the last 100 years of scientific publishing in Southern Africa, it turns out that scientists probably published about, on average, 23 records a year over that entire period of snakes feeding. Conversely, in just the last few years, we've been averaging well over 200 records a year, suggesting at least a tenfold in the average rate of record accumulation. Really, the value that we get here is that every person that is walking around with a camera and a cell phone can take these photographs, so any Joe Soap could be your observer.
Burgerwetenskap het nou wêreldwyd 'n erkende vorm van data-insameling geword. Ismail Ibrahim is 'n nodebestuurder vir SANBI se Crew-program. Passievolle vrywilligers help hier aktief om opnames te maak, dokumente saam te stel en bedreigde plantspesies te monitor. Hulle help ook vasstel watse plante bewaar moet word.
Our program has been going for 17 years, and some of the volunteers have been over 17 years contributing to that program. These citizen scientists go out into the wild and they photograph and record information about biodiversity. The scientists then use that information to work on their scientific research that they are doing. In many cases, we also use that information to influence policy and to identify priorities of conservation.
Die digitale era het vir 'n reeks interaktiewe foontoepassings en hulpmiddels om opnames te maak gesorg. Dit sit entoesiaste in verbinding met mekaar, help om spesies te identifiseer en moedig 'n waardering vir biodiversiteit aan.
These apps are used to monitor a range of biodiversity, so from little insects to big mammals, to plants, to fungi. So whatever biodiversity is in nature, you can record information about those species.
Die gewilde toepassing iNaturalist word deur meer as 1 miljoen mense wêreldwyd gebruik. Waarnemings word gemaak wat 'n opname is van 'n organisme wat iemand op 'n spesifieke tyd en plek teëgekom het. Alle opnames word deur ervare, vrywillige identifiseerders gekontroleer en gegradeer. Waarnemings wat as navorsingsgraad geklassifiseer word, dra tot databasisse, soos die IUCN se internasionale rooi-lys by. iNaturalist het tot nou toe al meer as 45 miljoen opnames van waarnemings, waarvan 13 miljoen in 2019 was.
I am loving this because today I'm officially super smart. I mean, this flower is called a sea fig. I am that smart girl now. Boom! Now I just need to log it.
Professor Les Underhill is 'n statistiese ekoloog wat op biologiese wetenskappe en veral voëlkunde en ekologie fokus. Hy was aan die voorpunt van Suid-Afrika se wêreldklas voëlatlas projek wat al in 1988 burgerwetenskaplikes se hulp gebruik het.
So the Bird Atlas project, basically we take the country and we divide it up into small grid cells, and we get the birders, the citizen scientists, to make lists in every grid cell. We have an app called BirdLasser which captures that data and it goes into computers. And so we can produce the distribution maps based on real observations, not just an artist's impression of what the distribution ought to look like.
Meer as 17 miljoen opnames is al sedert 2007 deur die projek ingesamel. Om 'n atlas van voëls saam te stel, is die bydraes van voëlkykers met wie daar 'n jarelange vertrouensverhouding is, nodig. Dit moet deur ingeboude rekenaars en mede-wetenskaplikes nagegaan word. Maar wat regtig 'n verskil maak, is 'n entoesiasme vir voëlkyk.
Atlases organise atlas bashes into the back of Beyond, where they know they're not going to see lots of bird species, but they're going to shade in those grid cells in the coverage map. It's built-in motivation in the project.
Les sien burgerwetenskap as 'n opwindende proses, eerder as net 'n manier om data in te samel.
I think a big weakness in the way we do citizen science throughout the world is by just treating the citizen scientists as observers, as data gathering robots, because when people get involved, they become ambassadors for biodiversity, they become leaders in civic awareness in their communities.
Abalobi beteken kleinskaalse visserman in isiXhosa. Dis ook die naam van 'n organisasie wat glo dat die data wat ingesamel word, die gebruikers moet bevoordeel.
Die Abalobi visvang toepassing is vir selfone ontwerp en word al sedert 2015 deur mans en vrouens aan ons kuslyn gebruik. Dis 'n notaboek, help met rekeningkunde en om omvattende inligting oor seelewe in te samel. Stigter Serge Raymakers glo dat data-invordering deur die publiek nie net 'n eenrigting proses moet wees nie.
The fact that fishers are utilizing the platform to record catches is for us a really important starting point to open up a dialogue between fishers, scientists and other stakeholders about what is really going on in our oceans, whether that data is collected through scientific methods or that data is collected by the fishers through their local ecological knowledge.
Die gebruik van die Abalobi toepassings laat vissers toe om met kliënte te skakel en 'n besigheidsprofiel op te stel. En die belangrikste is waarskynlik dat dit vissers toegang tot inligting gee wat hulle self oor 'n tydperk lank ingevoer het. Dit help hulle om besluite te maak wat op hulle eie data gebaseer is.
There are so many tools out there for fishers to be able to submit and collect data, but they don't really interrogate who owns that data and for what purpose will it be utilized. So every fisher that registers to use any of the Abalobi platforms, the first thing that they're asked to think about is data. How would they like that data to be used and who can it be shared with? Over time, as fishers get used to the application, they become more confident. They start to see the value of collecting data and using it collectively. So the fishers are thinking, what is that data and that information collectively put us in a position to do? can it help us solve some of our challenges?
And the apps really offer an opportunity for almost kind of extreme citizen science in really transforming or disrupting the process of decision making, of policy formulation.
Terug op land help Ismail weer om positiewe verandering te bring deur kinders aan te moedig om interaksie met die natuur te hê sonder om eers hulle toestelle weg te vat.
Where you can post pictures of biodiversity on a website and people help you identify it. And so you can actually contribute to someone's research that they're doing on a particular animal or a particular plant or insect or bird.
Die kinders word aangemoedig om nie net die vanselfsprekende raak te sien nie, maar ook die fynere besonderhede van insekte en plante.
Engaging the youth in citizen science programs really helps them understand the biodiversity that we have and how it operates and how we form part of those ecosystems and how we can help to protect and conserve them.
There's a snail under here. There's a snail in its shell right here.
I found the app really exciting and it brought a different perspective to how you look at nature.
What I found interesting about today is that most people don't really pay much attention to detail in the nature, but if you just take time and look at stuff and the beauty of it, you'll be amazed of how much you can find.
Of dit nou die bewaring van ons plante, ons diere of ons seelewe is, of letterlik die blommetjies en die bytjies, is burgerwetenskap miskien dalk net die ding wat alles kan verander wanneer dit by navorsing kom.